Welcome back to the Rotary Arts Center, beautiful Coleman's Theatre. I'm Aley, and today we are joined by the very special guest, Wendy Woodland, Quinnipiac's own, needs no introduction. We've got this beautiful baby grand piano in her backdrop today, and we're here to talk about Tell Me on a Sunday, which is a really exciting new production coming up here at the Rotary Arts Center next week, correct?
Correct. 7th, 8th, and 9th of April.
7th, 8th, and 9th.
And if we sell out, we're hoping to do the 10th, so.
Amazing.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it, and I just sort of wanted to ask you about that production today and sort of how it came together, what it is, who's involved, and some of your sort of favorite aspects of the show, and get people excited about it, because I'm certainly very excited to see it.
Well, I'm glad you're excited. That's great, Aley.
Yeah, it should be great.
So, where would you like me to start?
Maybe, yeah, I'd say, how did you get involved with this production? What drew you to it? And yeah, let's just start there, I'd say.
Well, interestingly enough, in the business world, you would say, you know, you get headhunted. And it was kind of that situation because David Smallwood, who, as you know, is the CEO here at the Rotary Arts Centre, he saw the original production of this in London, England, back in the 70s with Marty Webb. And he has always loved the music, and it's a really interesting and unique show. It's an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, and of course when you think about Andrew Lloyd Webber, you think of, you know, well, Jesus Christ Superstar from this, and then Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Evita, Cats,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
Phantom of the Opera, you know, these are all really big shows and well-known shows, and there are, of course, there are others that I haven't mentioned. But Tell Me on a Sunday, you know, was sort of in those same years, you know, because it came from the early 70s, but it's a full-length musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber, but it has one person. It's a one-woman show.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's what has caused it to not get performed very often, but I know it's never been done here in the province. So David has always loved the music for it, and at one point several years ago we had a conversation about it, and I said, yeah, I know a lot of the music because it did morph into something else called Song and Dance at one point. Okay. And in the 80s, I had the cassette tape
Ooh, fun.
of the Broadway recording of Song and Dance. So I did know a lot of the music, even though there are some pieces that aren't in either show, you know, that are unique to each show. So David just kind of said, we should talk about doing it at some point. And we were actually supposed to make it happen right before COVID hit. It was supposed to go up in May of 2020, but we had to cancel it, of course, because the world changed, and we're very happy that we finally are able to put it on stage here at the Rotary Arts Centre next week.
That's amazing. So back in 2020, you had sort of started preparing it then, and you kind of consolidated it and got it together, and now, is it the same group that was originally involved in terms of, I know it's a one-person show, but just, I assume there are like musical components, players, etc. Is it the same group as it was originally?
Originally, it was just going to be myself and a pianist, and Jerry Etienne was still directing it. Yeah. So we hadn't actually started, like, rehearsals were supposed to start. I think literally the scripts were on their way from the US in March when the world shut down, and David had to literally turn them around and send them right back. Wow. So we didn't even get a chance to start our rehearsal period, which probably would have started about the 20th of March that year. And of course, you know, it was the 14th and 15th that everything just kind of stopped back in 2020. So it, you know, we were kind of glad actually that we didn't get into anything because of course there's always royalties and rental fees associated with those scripts. So it might have been, I have no idea what that would have turned into, you know, if we had been partway through and had paid a rental, but then we couldn't do it and then we had to wait 2 years. So anyway.
Right. So it's kind of as unfortunate as it is that it couldn't go ahead then.
Yeah.
There's been this big break, and now sort of, I think, like a bolstered, re-energized sense in the arts community as COVID shifts and there's more sort of community engagement and safety protocols, et cetera, et cetera. So it's actually, I think it's an exciting time to do a show like this, because I think people, like, I was telling my friend recently, like even about a year ago, so I moved back from Toronto, and my friend who's really into the arts, they moved here with me for a while, and neither of us had seen anything, live music, live theater, anything like that for about a year. And then at that time, it was sort of before things, it was in the middle, so it was when there were still some shows happening here, but there was limited seating and stuff like that. And we came and saw a play here, which was The Anger of Ernest and Ernestine.
Yes.
That was just a 2-person show. And like my friend just bawled because, and I would too, we were just so excited to just like, you don't realize how much seeing a live performance can affect you and how much it can inspire you. And I think we both thought we were like, we don't know when we'll see anything again. And it was so good that, yeah, we both just left being like, I didn't even know how much I love theater until that point.
Exactly.
And so I think people are in a place like that a little bit now in terms of just really excited to kind of get back and see live performance. So that's amazing. I'm really happy that it's happening.
Yeah, me too. And in some ways, the fact that we had to wait has changed things a little bit, because originally it was just going to be a pianist.
Right.
Now it's going to be 3 different musicians and some of which are doubling up on instruments. So it's going to sound more like a bigger orchestral sound behind me instead of just a piano. So
that's great.
I can't wait until Monday when the instrumentalists all get here and we get a chance to do it together for the first time. So
wow, that's amazing.
It'll be
fun. Who's involved in terms of the instrumental? Sorry.
Brian Way is the musical director, and he'll be playing the piano. But of course, Brian is he's like a one-man band unto himself, because he plays the piano, but then he also has a keyboard on the side where, when he feels that the song requires it, he'll add a bass. So he ends up playing piano with one hand and a bass with another. So he turns into 2 players right there. Paul Harris from Stephenville is a wonderful percussionist.
Oh yeah, Paul.
And
He's
has
great.
done a lot of work here in the Corner Brook area. So he's going to be on the kit for us. And Mike Snellgrove, who is a trumpeter and keyboardist from Central Newfoundland, who I went to music school with, and
cool.
Brian has known and worked with for a long time. So he'll be doubling up on some other instruments as well. So yeah, it's going to be great.
Amazing. And that's so nice too, especially like in Newfoundland, when you get to work with talented artists in this sort of collaborative way, but they're not all living in the same place, so you might not see them that often, to get everyone together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen Brian play here before. I know Paul quite well from various projects, but I've seen Brian play here, and it's just so mesmerizing. He's so talented. I've barely ever seen anything like it, just the way he is with the piano. So I feel like, it's so nice in a performance, something with a lot of music, that when you're able to, I think, see the musicians to some degree, rather than, often with bigger productions where there are way more people, you've got the pit, and they're kind of hidden a little bit, but to see that sort of energy unfold as you sort of perform the whole play, I think will be really nice for people as well.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the story of the...
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting journey, I think, is what I would call it, because there's not so much of there being a storyline, as in it's an experiential journey of this designer, this young designer, who is from London, England, Muswell Hill, actually, right outside of London. So she's from small town England, and comes to New York.
Okay.
She's in a relationship when she comes to New York. So we don't know the backstory, So how did they meet, But he's an American, and she's British, and she comes to New York. Well, that relationship doesn't work out the way that she had hoped that it would. So then throughout the show, we're really following her in terms of her journey, discovering who she is, what she wants out of life, what she's prepared to do, mistakes she's made, the determination that she finds as she grows and sort of settles into herself in her own skin,
Yeah.
and ultimately ends up finding happiness. But I I can't tell you very much more than that. 'Cause
That's
I don't
no,
want to
that's
give
great.
it
I
all
don't wanna
away.
give the spoilers. Yeah.
No spoilers.
No, that's amazing. That sounds like a great yeah, and you're like, and then at the end
Yeah,
this
at the end.
happens. It's like everyone's like, okay. Yeah, I mean that sounds like a really beautiful kind of empowering female lead coming of age. I don't know if it's I always refer to I teach literature at Grenfell, and we always talk about the coming of age form, and I think that a lot of students sort of they ask me like, is a coming of age just something for if you are say a child and then you become an adult? And I always tell them absolutely not. Like, people are constantly sort of rediscovering themselves and going through obstacles to sort of figure out who they are and what they want and how to sort of thrive despite sometimes unexpected circumstances. So
Correct, yeah.
this sounds like a really empowering and exciting kind of version of that sort of narrative.
I think you're exactly right. And the interesting thing about this show, as I mentioned, it originally was written, and I think it was actually written for maybe Sarah Brightman, who was Andrew Lloyd Webber's wife. She did the original performance of this and Marty Webb, very close together. I'm not quite I think Marty did the original recording, but Sarah Brightman performed it on stage first. I can't remember. Anyway, I could be wrong on that. But from those original versions, it then changed into something called Song and Dance and appeared on Broadway with Bernadette Peters.
Oh, cool.
So some of the music was changed. There were some things added. So Song and Dance is related to Tell Me on a Sunday, but it's not exactly the same.
Right.
And then later on, again, Tell Me on a Sunday was revisited and revamped, and more new music was written for it. So it's really had its own journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how it's
That's
changed a little bit. So there's 5 new pieces that were written in 2003 and added to the show that would not have been in the production that David saw back in the 70s. So
Wow.
so it's interesting. So it's had its own metamorphosis. So some people are familiar with some aspects of it. Others maybe might know Song and Dance. Other people might not even know it existed because, as I said, you think Andrew Lloyd Webber, you think big show, instead of just one character. But very similarly to other Andrew Lloyd Webber productions, it's sung all the way through.
Right.
So
okay,
it sort of
cool.
has that format of it's just the whole all the way through. It's sung because there's nobody for me to have a conversation with.
Right.
It's just me.
True. Oh, wow. That's such a feat to be able to. I mean, that's very I'm always so impressed, even just sort of remembering the musicality of something, but telling a full story through music is really a huge feat, and I bet it's going to be super enjoyable to watch. In terms of, and also, there's kind of something for everyone there because people, like you said, who have seen it maybe in the 70s, there's I always love that when something is kind of added or shifted through time, and then you get to see it slightly reimagined.
Yes.
So that's really cool. And also, I guess sort of one of the last questions I'll ask you about the piece itself is, can you describe just a little bit about what type of music you're going to be performing?
Oh,
maybe
boy.
the style.
The style, oh my, it's funny because as we're rehearsing this, there's one number in the show that we always call the Burt Bacharach number because it sounds like, Burt Bacharach from the 70s. There are some things in here that, I hear little snippets of something from Jesus Christ Superstar.
Right.
Or there's another place where this section reminds me of Phantom of the Opera.
Cool.
Or this section reminds, so it's very typically Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's got his signatures all over it, So for anybody who likes his style and his show tunes, they're going to like this. It's certainly not classical in its bent at all. I mean, it's real musical theater. It's got a lot of pop, soft rock kind of vibe, and then there's there's a couple of big ballads in there. I mean, you can't have a Broadway show without a big heartfelt ballad. It's just gotta happen. So
Singing memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, there you go.
Yep. And also in Phantom, what's the one? There's
All I ask of you.
yes. Oh, so memorable. I feel like with stuff like that, it's like so many people with stuff like that, meaning Andrew Lloyd Webber and some of these sort of champions of the musical theater world. some people don't even know like what they, you know,
Yeah.
if someone were to ask me like, how many Andrew Lloyd Webber songs do you know? I might say like 3 or 4, but probably actually most of us are familiar with at least 30 if you hear it, because they're so
You recognize it.
earwormy and they're so like they stood the test of time. So that's really cool. I can't wait to see that. I think the last thing I want to ask you, unless you have anything else to add, is just, yeah, how can people come see the show?
Well, it's here at the Rotary Arts Center, April
Yep.
7th, 8th, 9th at 8 p.m. Tickets are on sale now. They're starting to move.
Yep.
Because, well, it's 10 days from now. What day is this? This is Wednesday. Well,
30th?
yeah.
Yep.
So 1 week from today, we will be having our dress rehearsal. So that's kind of scary. I haven't said that before. All of a sudden, I have a pain in my stomach. But tickets are on sale now, so folks can come in here to the Rotary Arts Center in the Lower City Hall, or the Rotary Arts Center website. You can buy them right online, or call the box office. I'm sure that they'll put them aside for you. So yeah, we really want to. This has been a long time coming.
Yep.
And as I said, because it is such a unique Andrew Lloyd Webber piece, and it's never been done in the province before, with the vibrant theatre community here in Corner Brook and on the West Coast, we certainly hope that people come out. And I've had a couple people say to me something about, I'm coming to see your show, but it's not my show. I don't think of I'm a part of the team that's part of this. So it's coming to see Andrew Lloyd Webber's Tell Me on a Sunday. I'm just one of the people involved, that's all.
Well, that's very humble of you. I mean, it takes so much to pull off a one-person production, so congrats on that. That's really amazing. And yeah, it seems like such a sort of star cast of characters that have come together to make this happen. So yeah, you guys get your tickets, go online, make sure you get them as fast as you can, because I'm sure it's going to sell really, really well, because I've already talked to a bunch of people who are super excited to see it.
Oh, good.
So congratulations and thank you so much. Thanks for coming in here today to talk about it, and I look forward to your show.
Thanks, Aley.
Have a great day, you guys. Thanks. Sorry, I never